Catapulting Commissions family, what's up, team? Welcome back to this week's episode of the Catapulting Commissions podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Garcia. So here's the deal, Catapulting Commissions family. Welcome back 100%. We are going into our fourth year, over 250 episodes. And if you haven't seen the post on social media, here's the recap. First episode launched, 7 downloads, swear I was 5 of them. And it was really humbling. Last year, the show had 20,000 audio downloads. I'm incredibly proud of that. And we put out content every week. And if you've been following the show, you know we take really the time after Thanksgiving to the start of the new year as a break. So we put some reruns and all that fun stuff. We are back. First guest of the year. I'm excited to bring value to you today. And be sure you smash that like button. Be sure to subscribe to this show. And let me tell you about who we're talking to today. Jessica Yarbrough quickly developed a reputation for being one of the best business strategists for coaches and consultants who want to sell and scale utilizing ultra high-end services. Her background is in international business. She has built multiple companies. Bottom line, she's a genius at showing entrepreneurs how to build an expert platform, rapidly raise their value, build credibility, and attract high-paying clients. She loves teaching entrepreneurs how to grow their influence and make the income and impact they desire. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So, Jessica, here's the deal. When I hear the phrase high-ticket services, high-ticket sales, it's almost to the point now where small business owners or consulting firms or coaches are like, okay, I'm going to package everything to these high-ticket sales. It's kind of like, here's my approach. And hopefully I'm not offensive, but I'm definitely be very direct.
Okay.
It's very easy to say, I sell high-ticket services.
Sure.
It's not so easy to say, I've built a 7-figure business doing it. You have.
Agreed.
How'd you do it?
Oh man, that's a long journey. I would say it was a winding road. I mean, I had to come to terms with owning my value, which is where a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle. And I work with people who were senior level directors all the way up to C-suite for major corporations. And even them, with all of those decades of experience under their belt, still have trouble owning their value. There's still some measure of imposter syndrome and lack of awareness with what the market will pay. So I had to get that sorted for myself, which is a big growth edge for entrepreneurs. And then I will tell you, one of the biggest things that I did was I really was intentional about the speed that I was scaling. You know, you always see like 100x your business and all of these things, and that's wonderful. But I also I was very aware of my colleagues, and I saw entrepreneurs that tried to scale too fast. You know, they were like more marketing, more acquisition, and they did so without really tightening up systems and their client delivery. So, you know, I mean, I even had a former coach of mine who skyrocketed in fame and then went bankrupt because this person became so focused on more and more acquisitions. So I was very intentional that I wanted to grow my business, and I wanted to do it in a way that I could be in high integrity, and that the business wouldn't break when we hit 1 million. That was number one. The other thing is I wanted to make sure I did it without burning out. And when I mean burning out, I mean, I know entrepreneurs who have given themselves a heart attack, you know, from trying to build so fast. I know other ones that, you know, work 12 to 14 hours a day and are missing out on time with their family, or whose relationship ends in divorce. And so it was really important for me to not go into that default like hustle mode and get there at all costs, because if you have a lot of money and don't have the family or the health, what's it all matter? Right. So that was my approach to doing this. So it's a long journey, winding road, but we got here.
Well, what I hear from that, Jessica, is one, it was incredibly intentional. Like, you knew the direction you wanted to go. You knew the life you wanted to be when you get there, right? Hearing you say, you know, you don't want to get there on that burnout, right? And sacrifice things. I remember being 36, just about to turn 37. Yeah, 36, turning 37. And it was kind of like where I was at my epitome with corporate America, and ending up in the emergency room because my heart wouldn't stop beating.
Yeah.
and being in there for observation and evaluation. And it was based off stress. I was managing this large team. I had people to answer to. I had all the titles, accolades, the salary, and I was like, I'm never feeling this way ever again. And so I that resonates with me that you wanted to build your business, because in this journey of building catapulting commissions over the past couple of years, that has really sat with me. Where I'm like, okay, we talked before we recorded, right? I have a family, I have a wife. Like, I want to enjoy
Mm-hmm.
certain components, but I also want to build
Right.
certain things. So I will definitely touch towards the end of the show on some of that well-being, right? Catapult Commissions
Mm-hmm.
family. I think my approach on mental well-being, right? I'm not a mental well-being expert, but I am a mental well-being person, meaning I've had the negatives, I've had the positives, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. I think we can touch that towards the end. Where I want to go now is the intention. So you made the intention you wanted to sell or utilize high ticket services to help build your business. I have to
Yes.
be honest with you. When you describe some of that imposter syndrome, you kind of hit me, right? I know when I moved into my business venture, right? And it's ironic. I literally wrote a post today and I deleted it because I wasn't comfortable with them. I'm kind of putting it together. It'll probably be out tomorrow or the next day on LinkedIn. But it essentially says this. In 2022, I struggled with imposter syndrome. I undercharged people, over delivered value. And it was bugging me that I was like, man, I'm working so many hours, but the income's not matching. So I asked every client, I was like, hey, would you mind just harshest feedback, harshest criticism? What has happened in the time we worked together? Everybody had growth. Great. Fair. I'm not going to raise your price. Just answer this question. Are you underpaying or overpaying? Oh, significantly underpaying. It was just like, and it was the
Wow.
validation I needed to hear, right? But it was the dagger in the heart. I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, how do we, right? How do we get out of that mindset, right? I mean, how do I take this package of information and deliver it to someone and say, hey, all right, this coaching offer, this package that I'm getting 15 grand from you for the year. Now, how do I go from that to, what? Realistically, I'm gonna get 100 grand for you for the year because
There you
I
go.
just took your business from 2.7 million to 3.9, and you know what? You wouldn't have done that without me. Like, where does
Bingo.
that? How do we have that discussion?
Wow, Anthony, you just said some really good things. Number one sign that you need to raise your prices, you started to resent it, right? That's the
Ooh,
biggest sign. If you're like, I am delivering, I am bringing it, and I'm not talking to anybody who's like, half-assing your client delivery. I'm talking you're getting results and
yeah.
you resent it. That's a telltale sign. Boom, you need to raise your prices. The second thing you said is you asked and people were honest that they were underpaying. And here's the thing. Until you see and own your value, no one else will.
Mm.
No one's going to volunteer and say, hey, Anthony, can I pay you 30,000? Can I pay? No one will. And every time my clients have gone, have been in a similar situation and had the tough conversations when it's time to renewal to raise their prices, they all said the same thing. It's like, yeah, man, I know I've been getting a deal. Thanks. That's not helping you. Right.
Yeah.
And so what you got to look for is the third point you just said was, I just helped you have this massive leap, right? This huge income growth. And you have to ask the question, is my price congruent with the value that I provide? Because you're not selling hours, you're selling transformation, you're selling
Ooh.
a result. And the cool thing about sales, which is what you do, and
Mhm.
business strategy, which is what I do, it's so easy to quantify because it's like, let's look at, there's two ways I quantify it. It's like revenue. Obviously we can look at profit too, but we can look at revenue and then I can look at their hours that we reclaim for the coaches that are making a lot of money, but just brutally working. So we can look at those two things. But you have to look and see, is it congruent, and what's the transformation? And if it's not, if you're making them $1 million and you're not even charging 10% of that, then how is that adding value?
In hindsight, totally makes sense. 100%.
Hindsight's 2020 though, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Where I think people struggle, right, with this. Let me put this together. And here's the kicker, right? Catapult Commissions family. I literally just had this conversation with my own strategy coach where I was like, you know what? And the analogy she used to me, and I've repeated it 100 times since she told me, I'm inside the bottle of my own business and I can't see the wrapper on the outside, which is
Yeah.
absolutely crazy because the clients of mine who listen to the show are like, oh, absolutely, man. Love what you say. I mean, you are on fire. And when I tell them, hey, I struggle with this in my own business, like, really? Like, yeah,
No.
we all
Yeah.
do. Like, I need
Yeah.
that other perspective. But here is here's where I felt lost coming out as a new consult, as a new coach, and I've made a pivot really. So the high ticket services, I've made a pivot in the business from coaching to really saying, hey, we're consulting. Like I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do change. Like I don't want to coach you for $250 an hour. Like it's just not
Yeah.
advantageous. My time's not advantageous your time, and I definitely resent it because I think my time's way more valuable. But we're gonna consult. We're gonna make a transformation in your business, and this is my fee to do so. How do coaches or consultants put that package together with confidence that
Mm-hmm.
they can A, deliver, and B, that the market pace will play for it?
That's a great question, and like I mentioned, there's usually some measure of imposter syndrome coupled with not really understanding what the market is willing to pay. And by the way, for your listeners, if you're marketing to people that can't afford to pay you a lot more money, which may or may not be true, we could do a whole podcast on that.
Mhm.
Then find someone that will.
Ooh.
There are so many businesses in the United States, guys. So many. And I have clients that we position to sell six-figure offers to small, quote unquote, businesses to a few million, all the way up to the big dogs. So there's opportunity at all levels. So if you're not in the right market, that's one thing. You can always shift your market and market to people that can't afford your services. And if they can, and you haven't quite been there yet, then we can unpack offer and positioning problems that happen before we even get to a sales conversation. But as far as how to package your genius into a really high ticket offer and position it that way, you have to deeply understand who your ideal client is and what the big urgency is for the problem that you're going to solve. Right? It cannot be a nice to have. It must be a must have. It can't be a cut that's, slowly bleeding. It's got to be a wound. They're dying. You become the tourniquet. You're going to solve it. And this is especially true when you go after a higher caliber market, because a higher caliber market value time more than money. They have a lot of money. CEO of a company's got money, got budget. If you're going after the right people, they got budget. What they don't have is a lot of time, right? So they value time more than money. If you can show them how to solve their problem and add millions to their bottom line, for example, and this is true whether you're a sales coach or even if you're executive or leadership, we can do so many different examples. If you can show that to them, then they're going to pay, right? The people that have a lot of time on their hands and not a lot of money, that's the people you don't want. They're going to watch your course because they have time to do it, right? So you need to make sure you're going after the right person with the right sense of urgency and deeply understand the valley of pain that they're in and all the struggles and frustrations that they're going to go through. You need to understand what their desires are and then codify your system of how you're going to take them up to the mountain, from the valley of pain to that mountain of potential, right? And the step-by-step system becomes your blueprint, your guide, and you become the Sherpa to take them. And if you can save them years of time and frustration and lost opportunity and lost revenue and whatever it may be, they're going to pay you a stupid amount of money to help them.
Oh, I love your thing there. You unpack what you said, and what I hear from you, right, Jessica. You're telling me someone's not find a better buyer. More importantly, find the
Yes.
right buyer. And
Yes.
I, fun fact, right? I just have been putting my team. We're one of our strategies for 2023 was to go more aggressive with our outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Our circle of marketing and word of mouth referrals and affiliate relationships have built the business. But to scale, I'm like we have to do some outreach. And so I don't want to do the outreach like 99% of the LinkedIn people I would get reached outreach. So we put a strategy together, really robust, and one day Catapult the Commissions family, I will roll it out and share it with you. But it really is a in depth. And one of the things I wrote on the top was quality, not quantity, right?
There you
And
go.
it really was. I'll give you a track. Here's the 10 relationships I want to establish this week, and if one of those relationships can convert to $100,000 relationship within 90 days, and I do that once a week, I'm okay. Like I'm comfortable with it. Do I want to send out 100 emails and hope for one? It's a really targeted, and it terrified me. Like scaling
Yeah.
down terrified me, or niching down terrified me. I'm like, this is the specific person we're going to work with. But
Hmm.
hearing you say that, and not only was I terrified when I put the niche down in my market, but then I went to LinkedIn Sales Navigator and other tools, and I'm like, there's 243,000 opportunities in the United States. Guys, we could suck. And as long as we stick in this market, I think we'll be okay. When we try to
There
go
you
to the
go.
2.4 million, that's where we get overwhelmed. So I love finding the better
Yes.
buyer. Like that really resonates with me.
Yes.
And
Yeah. You
yeah,
said it. Find the better buyer. Quality over quantity. I tell this to people all the time, right? You want the high caliber people, right? That's who you want. And then you need to put together something that is so valuable that even if it has a 6-figure price tag, the answer is yes.
it's yeah, I agree. And how you talked about the pain earlier, right? Solving this pain that I'm experiencing.
Hmm.
It is. It's almost like the silly analogy is like what is the best tasting hot dog street vendor in the world? The guy or girl who's outside the bar at 2 a.m. that you're walking out of. Why? Because
Yeah.
you have a problem. You're like, oh, you solve this immediately. I don't have time to look. You're like, oh, this is great. It's convenience. It's the best thing possible, right? We solved it immediately. That's like low level. Let's take that up a notch, right? Whatever the massive problem, you use the need for a tourniquet. Run run a marathon without water. I guarantee you, the person that sells you water at the end, they could charge you $1,000 for a simple bottle of water, and you would pay for it because it would
Yeah.
solve that depth problem. So, all right, let's peel this back. Jessica, why me though? Right? What makes me, and I'm using me as the audience, right? People listen to the show,
Yes.
consulting, coach, former executives, whatever we
Hmm.
have done, right? And I can't tell you how many corporate executives that I used to work with have reached out and said, "Hey, I'm building my own thing. I'm doing my own thing." And I'm like, "Hey, well, okay, great." And we kind of talk and advise, but these people, you said it, sometimes don't have that confidence in their skills. So why me? Like, how do I build my credibility or
Mm.
establish my credibility to charge these fees? $100,000, $50,000, $250,000, whatever it may be.
Well, it's a couple of things. One, we are talking about executives, so you're not talking about the the barista,
Correct.
Starbucks, who's like, I want to build a 6-figure business. I actually don't work with those folks. But if you have that credibility and background, you're going to leverage that. The key is you need to build a solution that you can get behind, and you need to be able to effectively communicate your value. 90% of the struggling entrepreneurs that come to me have a communication problem, right? They're long winded. They talk on and on and on. It's like a meandering journey. They don't get to the point. Their messaging sucks. Their positioning is weak. They're boring. They're not relevant. So they can't capture awareness. They don't even get a chance to get to the sales call. So we have to not only build your solution, but help you to be really concise and clear in how you communicate it. And it's really borrowing my confidence for a while. So even if you don't, hey, I don't really know. Okay, Jessica's going to help me with this strategy and give me the tools to help me create something that's really awesome and I can get behind. And what happens is you go in empowered in that sales conversation, because now you're like, I know what to say, not just from a sales perspective, because there is, of course, the arc of a sales and journey of
Yep.
a sales conversation, but around the offer. And you know how to hit every single pain point and desire and present it so that no matter what, you are the very positioned as the very best person to solve their problem at the very best solution. And so what happens is, even if you come out and you're like, I've never sold this, my client Joe's a great example. He came out as a director level from the oil and gas industry, never sold anything. He pitched a $37,000 package, right? And then he pitched a $100,000 package. And so you create that reference point of what is possible in your mind. And then once you level up, you can go again and again. It becomes easier. But it's about having enough confidence going into it. And you can do that with the right solution, the right offer, the right messaging, the right sales conversation to win you the deal. And then you need to follow through on your commitment, especially with high ticket guys, to do everything in your power to get your clients excellent results, to make good on your promise, because that is how you create that widespread demand for your services, is by focusing on a huge emphasis on client delivery and quality client experience.
that quality client experience that you're describing at the end, and I love how you mentioned, right, unpack your confidence, right, like know the value you deliver and realistically be crystal clear in what I solve, who I solve it for, and to over deliver on value, right? Every coach, every consultant is like, yeah, I'm going to do that, right? And sure, if I'm taking your 297 course, and yeah, I think it's fairly easy when you're paying
Yes.
29 grand a month for the next 10 months. Yeah, try to over deliver. Here's where my question comes in. You have to have a team, so to speak, right? You have to have
Yes.
like it's
Systems and a team.
yes, and that is where companies struggle with sometimes. And I know
Yeah.
my biggest block I hit in my own journey was when I realized, and I knew this going into it, like you're in growth mode. I'm growing, I'm growing. Couldn't be everywhere at once, and so I suffered everywhere at the same time. So it was like, okay, let
Mm.
me grow my team, and that took some challenges as well. Is to find that team or what I can deliver, and maybe it was a process of systems. So how do you take these high ticket offers and
Hmm.
scale the systems that you've had? Like, what was your process to build out your systems or your people? Because unless you tell me right now, Jessica, you're Superwoman and you're
No.
24/7 on Zoom calls and you're everywhere at the same time. Would love to share that, but I think realistically, you probably have some support.
I do. And, it's step by step. I would say, and I've got colleagues who have, 7 and 8 figure companies. They always say the people problem is the hardest part. And that's both the people problem with your team and the people problem with client delivery and keeping everybody happy. And so it's something you absolutely need to put focus on in order to scale your company. So we looked at building what are all the core systems you need in a business: the social selling, the social media or social selling systems, sales systems, marketing systems, internal operation systems, and client delivery. And then it was building the team step by step. I mean, typically what you're going to need right away is support with the growth, and that's a marketing person. And I'm not saying that they're a strategist per se, but someone that is going to help you with the lead gen efforts and assets, materials, and all of that. And then typically, well, some clients do require a copywriter if messaging isn't their sweet spot. They need support with that, or they need to hire a coach to help them with that. Another key aspect, and usually I feel like around 350,000 in revenue, you're going to feel that need for a client delivery person to support you, or client support. Some people are able to ride that out longer. But most people are going to feel the pain at 350 to 500K. And this is for low volume, but high ticket, not necessarily for high volume. You definitely need someone sooner. And then as you get upwards in the high 7-figure or high 6 figures, excuse me, you're definitely going to need an operations expert to pull it all together. The bigger your business, the more emphasis you're going to need on operations and really streamlining your like project management tools. And I mean, we spent a year building out, our project management alone, and another year for SOPs. And so it's a lot. It's a lot with a business, and it only becomes more complex the bigger that you build.
Oh yeah, the systems, the systems. I love it, and I love the metric revenues you share, and catapult the commissions family. For those of you that are listening here, and you're like, hey, I don't run a coaching business, but I am a small business owner. What Jessica just shared right now is the equivalent to the CRM we talk about sometimes, right? Like that is just as important in your business as the operations is on the backside. Having that CRM on the front, and I'm sure Jessica has a CRM as well, where we're targeting, but that implementation is an area that I see tons of businesses really struggle with, right? It's just I don't have that system in place. So to hear those systems now,
A lot of systems. A lot of people have broken systems. I always like that quote by James Clear: "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems." Most business owners that come to me, they might have some client delivery onboarding set up, but it's not the level of sophistication that you're going to need to scale a multi 7-figure company. Or I even have a client, who had a 7-figure company, but somehow didn't have it, but they can't grow. They're stagnant because their systems are broken, and their team isn't able to work together in the way that they should.
yeah,
That's
it's
unusual.
definitely unusual, and there, but it goes right. There's multiple ways to get to a level of success, but we are all in
Yes.
agreement that there has to be some sort of system. The system has to grow. And we need that. Like, if you don't have that system in place, Catapult Commissions family, like, you definitely want to get that system. You also always know if you need help, you can reach out to the resources we have. I'm sure Jessica will get her social stuff and all that fun stuff at the end of the show, but you definitely need to build that. And here's my confession to you, family. I needed help building my own systems. I've built other systems. When I was building mine, I'm like, okay, I need someone to fine tooth comb this. And then here's the kicker. I didn't know what was broken until I put the system in place. Like, in theory, it was like, this is perfect. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh man, this is a flaw, or this automation isn't working the way, or this automation is actually not doing what it's supposed to do, or this person isn't, like, it was just in the, so don't be hard on yourself. Speaking of systems, Jessica, I want to talk with you about the client acquisition system, right? One area that I think is going to continue to grow, and I don't think it's reached its peak, but is LinkedIn. It is common knowledge that LinkedIn is a great place to grow influence, establish relationships, and, let's be honest, attract and convert your clients.
Yes.
I have my opinion on LinkedIn, or I have my opinion on LinkedIn outreach. I see tons of people who LinkedIn outreach. I'm sure you get them. I get a bazillion messages trying to sell me something, and none of them really work. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do we leverage LinkedIn in our business.
Well, it's a great question. It's got to be a combination of authority building and outreach. You can't just do outreach alone and expect to create trust, especially for ultra high end services and these big mega deals that you want to land. So you need to be educating your audience on a consistent basis. The beautiful thing about LinkedIn is, even though there are so many users and so many potential buyers, relatively to that, there's not that many content creators. So I always tell my clients, you need to build your body of work. You need to build your thought leadership. You need to start putting things out there so people perceive you as an expert. And so that has got to happen in conjunction with the outreach, because we don't want to just put out content to no audience, and we don't want to build an audience without anything to tell them. And so a lot of people struggle to do both. You need to do both, and you need to do it simultaneously. Your acceptance rate of connections is going to go up when you have something important to say. The trust and credibility factor is going to go up. And then as far as your outreach, like, lead with value. The number one mistake people make with their outreach is just trying to sell you right away. Like, you don't even know me. You're assuming, I have this problem. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've came to me and said, hey, how would you like to add, to reach 10 to 20K a month in your coaching business? It's like, what? So, making your outreach based on assumptions is a losing game. So be curious, provide value, ask the right questions, and you'll be able to cut through the noise. One of my clients is funny. He has a high 7-figure business. He's now crossing to 7 figures. But when he hired me, he was at, I think, 650, 700. And when I reached out to him on LinkedIn, he responded, I don't think you can help me. And it was the most awesome response, because I was able to go in there and really say, okay, this is awesome. I'm glad you hit this level. Here's, whatever it is, top 12 reasons why, I could help you, or where you might be struggling, where I see people stuck at your level. And he was like, wow, you shifted my perspective. Let's have a call. 2 weeks later, bought a 6-figure package from me, like that. So when you get curious and you don't assume, and you're willing to say, hey, let's have some dialogue happening here, that's a much better strategy. And he told me that he gets at least 6 messages per week, and usually, blocks the person or deletes them. So there is opportunity. Yes, there are people who are spamming, and there are people who are saying, hey, you're just in time for my webinar, or join my 5-day challenge. CEO doesn't want to join a 5-day challenge, guys. Right? CEO's busy. And but just keep in mind that if you have the ability to position yourself differently, you have the ability to show up differently in those DMs. You can bring a level of professionalism and to that experience, and know that the more sophisticated buyer, which we're talking about, business owners on LinkedIn, like that other tactics aren't going to work, right? So go for the person that values time more than money. Cut through the noise with a concise message, and ditch the spammy tactics.
Oh, the spam is miserable, and I think that's awesome. I would love. I mean, for someone to be like, I don't think you can help me, and to convert. I mean, that's a case testimonial in its own right. But goes to show that your level of confidence in what you do and your ability to be original and articulate in your outreach. That whole concept of building credibility on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
it's it's tough at times, right? I think I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I have not cracked this top LinkedIn sales influencer and all these accolades and all this fun stuff that comes with it, right? I have friends that do. I've had people on the show that have had. I've seen it. I know some people firsthand where I could text them like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's kind of, if I look at it through the lens of I want the likes and engagement,
Hmm.
it discourages me. But if I look at it through the lens and I'm like, you know what? I picked up 497 impressions on this. If
Mhm.
one of those was my client avatar and is going to watch this one and the next one and the third one, and we're going to engage in a conversation down the road and they convert, it is worth it. But if I look at through the lens of, man, I only had 497, my competitor had 49,000, what am I doing wrong? It gets frustrating to me. Did you go
That
through any of that struggle?
the engagement's a tricky thing to look at, right? Because we do want some engagement on the post, but that cannot be your only metric. Because here's the thing: if you're sharing inspirational things, yeah, people are gonna love it. They're gonna be like, "Oh, that's a beautiful quote." Are they gonna buy from you? Do they know anything about you? No. I know a lot of people with a whole lot of engagement whose applications come through, and they're making less than 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you cannot look at that metric alone. I am not a LinkedIn, whatever the influencer award, but I am a LinkedIn influencer, right? And I will tell you this: higher level buyers, they are not going to engage with your content. They will not. Do you think a CEO is going to like a post where you say, sick of putting out fires all day? No. Are your sales down again? No. Didn't hit your goals this year? No, they will not. But they will appear on your calendar because you triggered them. You spoke. You were the truth teller. So, my posts that get the most sales calls get the worst engagement typically. And I'll go back and I'll say, "Oh, book call. Let me go and see what I wrote today. Oh, I just triggered the heck out of that person." And I can literally say this post triggered, and I can directly connect post to clients at this point.
Mm.
And so, again, engagement. Yes, we want impressions. Of course, we want visibility. We want reach. But I especially for those of you that are marketing to C-suite, they aren't going to. They that LinkedIn, when you comment or like a post, their network sees it. Their employees see it. They don't want to put that. That's risky. They might have a conversation in the DM. They might even say, email me, because they don't want whoever their executive assistant is seeing that conversation in the DM, and it might move to email. So again, take engagement with a grain of salt. You want some visibility. You want some activity. Obviously, you don't want to have nothing happening, but do you want engagement or do you want revenue?
I love it. I love it. Don't be social media rich and bank account poor, because
There you go.
that really, really sucks. And that whole concept you shared about C-suite and CEOs, like I had a conversation with the CEO of a really large direct sales agency, like massively large. If I said the name, everybody would be like, "No way!" And had numerous conversations. And here's the kicker: when the email and the name came on my booking, it was blank blank at Gmail.
Mm,
No company name, no nothing.
yes.
And I was like, dude, who is this guy? And
Mm,
in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is, but you jump on it and I was like, oh my goodness. It was a really like, wow, okay,
yeah.
let's have a conversation. And to hearing you say that, I've never thought about it in the terms of, because like there was never any like on my stuff.
Hmm.
It was never like it was just
No.
out of the blue. I'm like, hey, this all right. And so to hear you say that gives me a different perspective on my own strategy. So thank you for that. Now,
I I can say until after joining my program, right? All of my clients that are currently in my program, none of them engaged on my stuff before hiring me. They might have engaged after, you know,
oh,
but they haven't engaged before. It's very interesting. And they'll nod their head. They're like, you're right. Now, some of them had conversations in the DM, some of them ignored my DM
yeah.
and booked a call. I don't care. Book a call. Let me help you. That's what matters, is getting the clients more than, vanity metrics.
I love it. I love what you're saying there. Now, is LinkedIn your only source for client acquisition?
It is my primary source.
Okay.
So I originally started my business on Facebook.
Huh?
Facebook became a pain, and it went in kind of it took a turn a couple of years ago. You guys know COVID, all the things that were happening, even before that, I would say. And I had already started building my business on LinkedIn, and I really resonated with the caliber of clients that were on there. So I use a combination of LinkedIn. I tap into OPT, other people's traffic, and get
Hmm?
my name out there. And then we launched YouTube I'd say 6 months ago, and are steadily building that as a second platform. And with that came blog and all the other things. But I didn't even expand to LinkedIn and blog until we hit seven figures.
That's awesome. I love hearing your story on that. I built my business all through word of mouth for the longest. It was word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, and then I would hit a revenue metric that I wanted to hit, then I'd fall back down. Hit a revenue,
Mm,
but at the same time, I was like, you know what? It was I was comfortable. I was like,
yeah.
oh, I was comfortable. And then it was like, okay, now how do I pivot this and say, okay, let me grow, let me scale. I've taken some lumps, I've learned some things, I've lost clients, I've gained clients, but now let me really scale this thing. And like you, my approach on LinkedIn, on YouTube, it really has grown, and we're teetering around right now with some different media sources or different areas to build influence and credibility. We'll see how that works,
Mhm.
but I love hearing your story on that. So let's pivot on one last thing here. We have a few minutes.
Yes.
With everything you just shared right now, I have to be honest with you. There are times in my business where I'm sitting in my office, right? So I work from home. This is my home office. It's set for YouTube. I have lights, mics, soundproofing, all this fun stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is great. There are times in here I'm like, I'm going crazy.
Mm,
Things haven't hit right. Stuff's not in alignment, right? Some of my clients, I haven't received a payment on the invoices. I'm like,
mm,
guys,
mm,
if
mm.
you don't pay me, doesn't mean the people that I pay are gonna wait. Like I'm floating something here. It was just this churn of just I'm getting frustrated.
Yeah.
How do you manage some of the mental stress with building a large business?
Mm. Well, there's definitely lessons on your journey to seven figures, and I know each person is going to go through whatever what I call CEO growing pains, and definitely new level, new devil. Each big jump is going to bring its own set of challenges, and so I would say the first thing is self care is really important. Many of the clients who come to me who are stuck, their grind nose to the grindstone, whether that's at 150,000 or whether it's at 700,000, have lost complete control of their schedule. And so part of self-care is learning to control your time, or it will control you. Raise your prices. We talked about that. Most people need to do it. If you switch from a volume-based model to a quality, more intimate model, it's less clients to serve. You can go deeper. You can get them bigger transformation. That's key. Making sure that you're taking care of yourself. I work out 6 days a week. Make sure I put good foods into my body, think good thoughts, do my meditation. That's all part of it. A big journey for me was learning to say no and set up. I would say the biggest lesson was learning to say no and put strong boundaries about what I wasn't willing to do. Because just like we talked about with clients, undercharging, and they accept it and happy to cut you that check for less than what they should. It's the same thing with anything. So putting up strong boundaries, like this is the only clients I'm willing to take. This is what I'm not willing to put up with. Uh, Making sure I'm not responding to something so simple like responding to texts and emails, outside of business hours, and setting that expectation that it can be 8 o'clock on a Friday night and I'm going to get right back to you. There were so many things I had to do. I had to say no to a lot of opportunities, no to virtual coffee chats. Everybody wants to get on. No, I don't get on calls on coffee chats. And so saying no, canceling applications. I reject 50% of the applications that come my way. Some of that by automation, and some of that I look at it, I say, nope, not interested in this person, even if, on paper, some of the things check. I know they're not in alignment with who I am, with the clients I want to serve. So there's so many things you have to do. Get strong with your no, put strong boundaries, take care of yourself, control your time, All of those are put the right systems in place, have the right circle of influence around you, that are aligned, your personal influence, your friends. Make sure you got the right people around you as you grow, because it's a wild ride when you start making a lot of money.
Mm. I'll tell you what, Jessica, to hear your approach on that is really, really not only inspiring but enlightening. Like it is hearing your approach, boundaries, saying no. I've had to establish. I actually took Slack off my phone for that reason. I was like, you
Mm,
know what, I've put boundaries and I put limitations, but I always want to over deliver. So if Slack comes in early morning I'm in California, so my clients are East Coast based. My business hours start, my business hours start at 7 a.m. and they cut off at 4 p.m. So I'm like,
mhm.
I'm okay with that. But I go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I would find myself at the gym like, oh, should I respond now? Or go into my daughter's taekwondo practice at 4:30. Should I respond now? And I would establish it. I felt guilty. So I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm
Mm.
just take Slack off my phone. Like just
Good.
sorry guys, there's no Slack on my phone, and there's no Slack, my WhatsApp, all of my personal text message. And if you have that, that's because your name is mom or my spouse. And those people, yeah. Outside of that, like I try to establish that as hard. And it's funny, the moment I established that, I remember sitting on a Friday evening, going to dinner with my wife, and it was just I was on a date. No stress. I enjoyed it. Had a great conversation. But I've been on those dinner dates with my wife where I'm like, looking at that
Yeah.
and I just remember thinking like eventually something's gonna give, right? Am I gonna
Yeah.
focus on this and am I gonna lose this, right?
Right.
And I'm like, this I can replace. My family, my spouse, I can't. Like
Mhm.
I don't want to. I'm not in that position. In my mind, I can't. So this is non-negotiable for me. So I love that approach, the food, the fitness, all that fun stuff. So
Yeah. I
how
love
do
it.
you
Non-negotiable. Oh,
let
go ahead.
last insight, how do you stay motivated through all of this? So those are all the activities, that's cool, but what do you feed to keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of things. One, my daughter's a huge
Mhm.
motivation, and creating this legacy for my business and my life. My clients motivate me. I love seeing. I get more excited about my clients' wins than I do my own, and seeing someone who has been stuck or who's in this place of doubt, who has been nose to the grindstone for years and has not been able to get to that next level, to see them, that aha, that moment when they realize what's possible and they go out and close the biggest deal of their life. Like, that's highly motivating, because I
Mm,
know that my work has a ripple effect. If I can help more people, that's going to transcend through all of the companies that they work with, all the employees that they work with. And so all of that's extremely motivating for me.
mm, I love it. And in true fashion, Jessica's motivation comes from the service of others, which I think says a lot about you, your character, and your growth in your business. So, Jessica, from myself and my team, I think thank you for being on the show. I think you are clearly have cracked the code, and you're clearly on your way to not only catapulting your commissions, but catapulting the commissions of everyone who comes and works with you. And that is freaking exciting. So, how does my Catapult to Commissions family get in contact with you if they want to learn more about you? If someone's like, hey, you know what? This high level scaling, right, is something that I'm interested in. How do they get a hold of you?
A couple places. Number one, definitely hit me up on LinkedIn. Send me a message. Let me know you heard me on this show so I can accept your invite. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, and then I'm happy to share some resources. I have a concept I teach called the ladder of influence. It's how you scale your authority and influence so that you can grow a 7-figure business. So if you go to jessicayarbrough.com/influence, you can download that 33-page guide.
Awesome. Guys, we will put those links in the show notes so you can get connected with Jessica. 100% reach out to her on LinkedIn. Go get connected on our website. Subscribe to the YouTube. You will see all of that. I myself, I'm already connected to Jessica, but I will go and get connected with your YouTube because I like to consume the content two-part. One, that helps feed my personal growth, but two, I like to consume the content of the guests that have been on the show. Now, this was really easy when it was like episode 30, now 250, but it's like my scroll of like, man, there's a good group of people here. I love it, and so I'm humbled that you're here. Catapult to Commissions family, this is the time of the show. You know what to do. If you haven't pressed like, you haven't subscribed, go do that. And do me a favor, man, share this episode with somebody, right? If you want to share on social media and tag us, that's great. If not, just send this to someone, because truth be told, if you're in a position of saying, hey, I want to grow or scale my business, find someone who's doing it already. Find someone who's done it before. Find someone who's that's what they do and they've done it. There's a big difference between I do this for a living and I talk about this for a living. Jessica does this for a living. So, guys, go get connected with her. Jessica, thanks for being on the show. I wish you nothing but abundant success in the future. And Catapult to Commissions family, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next week.